Picture yourself killing an innocent man. Not only just a man, a father, a son, a husband, and a friend that was killed just because he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. His name was Brandon Rodriguez, a 30-year-old man who was walking his dog in the neighborhood when the house robbery occurred. Brandon saw the shooter running out the house. The shooter then saw Brandon and shot him as he left the scene. He was pronounced dead on July 17th of 2018. So what happened to the shooter? He still gets to live every day while Brandon doesn't. He's able to eat, drink, exercise, and talk to his family in jail while Brandon is buried under dirt. How is that right? How is a man who wanted to commit a crime be able to live while Brandon was casually walking his dog at night be dead? It shouldn't be. The shooter should be punished, not just by going to jail, but the death penalty. The death penalty is a death of a punishment given by a court of law for very serious crimes, capital punishment. The death penalty is determined only for crimes in which a victim is killed, but state legislature can determine what specific circumstances make a murder eligible for a death sentence. Let's discuss about why the death penalty should be enforced. The problem about the death penalty is currently suspended, and there have been many violent crimes since then that has gone without justice being served. As of April 1996, more than 30,000 convicts were under death sentence in 1990s. Over 200 convicts were sentenced to death, with 56 of them actually executed. On an average of 30 people per year are put on death row during the 1990s. Social acceptance of death penalty has dropped, but a majority of the Americans still favor the death penalty for research. In 1996, 79% of Americans approved of the death penalty, but in 2018, the approval dropped 54. That was very significant. The reason being why it dropped is because taxpayers pay $80,000 million per year for one prisoner. National homicide rates and death penalty support have fluctuated somewhat since the 1960s, leading to speculation that the public view of capital punishment is sensitive in homicide and in violent crimes. In 1960, there is data that areas with higher violent crimes, like New York City, have most citizens that support the death penalty. It may be pure embellishment, but there are strong beliefs for the public that the criminal should face the fate to their victims have to go through. So in instance, if they kill somebody, they should also be killed. Now that we talked about problem, let's talk about the harms. The harms caused by the problem is individuals that commit heavier and more destructive crimes are in a life sentence, which can affect mental capacity of the inmate. This may cause of suicide, drug encounters, and aggressive behavior. It's increased levels of mass within the already chaotic environment. Another harm by not having the death penalty is greater prison capacities. Without the death penalty, prisoners will be in higher inmates, which limit rooms and emphasize under pressure or protection of the system. This puts a greater strain on the system and even bigger strain on needed materials and staff members. Now lastly, the third harm. Protests and reforms will rise in acts to rescind the penalty. Families of victims who were lost due to intolerable acts of violence are going to be seeking justice on behalf of their loved ones, creating higher levels of retaliation as well. Despite the negative orderlies that come with extermination of the death penalty, there are great sum of solutions and coincidence with the positive of the death penalty. The solution of the death penalty abolished to get any law changed. The best option is unity and pressure lawmakers to put it in action. Anti-death penalty legislation. First piece of evidence of this solution is dreaded crime. Many studies link to conduct overtime executions and reduce murder rates. Another piece of evidence penalty for the death penalty is fear of death and faster trials and less taxpayer spend. The latest, an eye for retaliation for members. Violence of crime should be met with violent punishments, and many loved ones of victims achieve closure when criminal is executed. Not all Americans believe that the death penalty is the best answer and believe myths. Some critics wrongly believe that restraining the death penalty will have no positive effect on society. While the statistic evidence doesn't confirm that it deterrents work, it doesn't show the duration doesn't work either. This means that the death penalty could potentially be becoming an act as a deterrent to crime. The second myth, people believe, and some critics wrongly believing, that this solution would be cruel and unjust. However, many people that the death penalty commit violent crimes, such as serial killers who murder many people in crimes usual ways themselves. Some might argue that the punishment fits the crime. Now that we talked about two reasons, let's talk about the last. How would death penalty be paid for? The death penalty is funded by taxpayers. We can remain the taxpayers to pay the death penalty. Taxpayers can continue to fund this decision, and many Americans believe that they are paying less money for individuals for the death penalty than they do for their entire lifetime being in prison. In conclusion, justice for Brandon Rodriguez, a father, a son, a husband, and a friend that was killed just because he was at the wrong place at the wrong time, should have justice. His family deserves to know the killer of their loved one is no longer walking this earth. With civilians knowing if they kill someone, it will happen to them will lower rates in the United States. The United States is leading the most criminal murders in the entire world. We will know that there will be a success when the crime rates drop in the U.S. Now let's get justice to Brandon.